Donate.
Mary had a little man.
We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me. Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
Putin in crisis after an armed mutiny and a march on Moscow. A weekend of turmoil not seen in decades has left the Russian leader looking humiliated and weakened. It started Friday evening, 10:15 p.m. Yevgeny Prigozhin, a former Putin ally who leads the Wagner private military company that's fought for Russia around the world and most recently in Ukraine, suddenly announces his troops are crossing the border back into Russia and to march against military leaders. Saturday, 7:30 a.m. Prigozhin says his fighters have now taken a key military headquarters and an airfield in the city of Rostov-on-Don. Meeting little resistance, his men march north. An angry Vladimir Putin addressing the nation, saying he's been stabbed in the back, warning of civil war. Around noon, fighting reported around Voronezh. By 3:30 p.m., a column of Wagner fighters was noticed near Lipetsk, now just 220 miles from Moscow. At 8:29 p.m., the rebels just around 130 miles from Moscow, where defenses are being dug, when Prigozhin suddenly announces a halt, saying he's turning back to avoid bloodshed, even though a number have already died along the way. Prigozhin and his men get an amnesty and are cheered like conquering heroes as they withdraw. Prigozhin reportedly being allowed to leave for neighboring Belarus, who may have brokered the deal. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken telling John Carlin this week he doesn't believe we've seen the final chapter.
It's still a moving picture, and I doubt we've seen the last act. But I think we can say this much. First, we've seen some very serious cracks emerge.
Overnight, Russia's beleaguered Defense Minister Shoigu apparently making his first public appearance, touring the battlefields in occupied Ukraine, although the official Russian video doesn't reveal where he actually is. And on the ground, the Ukrainians claiming to make some advances in their counter-offensive in the south, and seen here in the east amidst intense fighting. Mikhailo Podolyak, a senior aide to Zelensky, telling me he believes the chaos in Russia will hinder its war effort.
Given what we've seen happening in Russia, do you believe we're now at the beginning of the end of the war in Ukraine?
He says, without a doubt, it's the beginning of the end.
Yay.
And President Zelensky now warning Russia may be planning a potentially life-threatening attack on Europe's largest nuclear plant, with orders for all military and emergency personnel to undergo training to deal with a nuclear disaster.
Hi.
Well, so many questions this morning. How damaged is Putin, and what does this mean for the war here in Ukraine? Where's Prigozhin, and what's he planning? I think the Wagner leader hasn't been seen since Saturday, and this morning, the Russian newspaper Kommersant Daily reporting that the mutiny charges against him have not actually been closed. I think we're unlikely to have heard the last of Prigozhin, and for Putin, unlikely to have seen the end of this crisis.
It's 10 o'clock in Russia. Do you know where your oligarch is? So apparently Putin is going to be addressing, Russia, and the whole world is going to be watching from the Kremlin soon. It's, a little after 10 p.m. in Russia right now. So nobody knows where anybody is. This was like an amazing thing. So how is it possible that I went to make a pot of coffee and the whole world freaking changed? How is that? I mean, can I not rest on a weekend? Can you not get a break? This is not fair. This is wrong. This is indecent, really. That a mutiny, a coup, an insurrection, in Russia, not here. And here, when it's here, we can deal, we can cope, we know. There. How do you follow it? How do we know what the hell's going on over there? These are world heavyweight champion liars. There are no good guys in Russia that have armies, okay? There are no good army owners in Russia. Either, you got to think of who the players are first, right? So you got, Vlad over there with his, defense, his regular military. You've got, Prigozhin. I want to say, Prigozhin is supposedly in Belarus. He gave a tape today, a sign of life, basically. This is what they all have to produce now is, something with them holding the newspaper with the current date on it so that we will know it's real, because that's the kind of lying that goes on over there. I mean, it's real insane stuff. So Prigozhin put out a tape today saying he was in Minsk, but nobody can confirm that he's in Minsk. Okay, this is like really strange. And then, Putin's going to sort of, address Russia from the Kremlin today. That'll be his proof of life video. We don't know where Shoigu is, who is for lack of a better, he's the Secretary of Defense for Russia. And this Geramazov, who's like the main general. So think of him as like the Joint Chiefs. Okay. And this is what the beef is about. It's about the mercenary military owner, the Prigozhin dude, who, by the way, is under indictment here in the United States of America for interfering in the American election on behalf of, Putin. He was running the Internet Research Agency in St. Petersburg. Prigozhin was the person in the Mueller report who was responsible for running that troll farm that was interfering in our elections. So F you, Ted Cruz, and all you traitors, Ron Johnson, and everybody that serves up Putin's talking points freely. And oh, there he is. Is that now? I don't know.
That actually looks live. Yeah, let me make sure.
Is that live? It doesn't say live. It doesn't.
No, it doesn't say it down there.
No. I'm so confused.
We don't know. You don't know it's live.
I don't know. I don't know. I thought he was going to be, I don't know. The organizers of this rebellion cannot but understand they will be brought to justice. Wait a minute. They're supposed to have amnesty in Belarus where, Vladimir, well, he'll be safe. Okay. You know what this is, right? This is like the heads of the five families. Okay. And so you've got, Putin, who's the capo de capo. You've got Prigozhin, who's sort of the Barzini, right? He's running that family. And then don't forget, you got the Chechen warlord. Okay, you got him. What's his name? Ramzev Kadyrov, who runs a Chechen mercenary group. Okay, that disappears people and literally rapes women for fun. For fun, they go out and they rape the women in Chechnya, and then when they're serious about doing their business, they kidnap people and make them join their mercenary. It's very sick. So if this would go all the way to Moscow, let's say, if this kind of thing would, you would have in Moscow the regular military who's under the command of Vladimir Putin versus Prigozhin's mercenary group, the Wagner group, versus the Kadyrov group, the Chechen mercenaries, and then a little bit of the Belarusian dictator. I mean, it's a mess. It's a mess. But see, this is what happens when you lie. And the thing that's really, really freaking out Putin, I don't think was the march to Moscow as much as it is that Prigozhin was willing to say the truth about what the Ukrainian invasion was all about. And this is why people like Tucker Carlson, people who were repeating these Putin talking points that they were trying to denazify Ukraine, or this had to do with NATO, or any other thing that didn't actually say that Putin was doing it for craps and giggles because he's got some fantasy about putting together the old Soviet Union, putting together the old gang. And that's kind of what Prigozhin was telling the Russian people. And the thing, because the thing that is so upsetting about this whole thing is not just but it's the amount of lives lost. You're talking, okay, we watched children be slaughtered in kindergartens. We watched maternity hospitals be blown up. We watched all kinds of theaters, with people hiding under rubble. We watched the whole thing with the steel plant, okay, and all those guys, with some of them had their wives with them and their families with them in that steel plant, right? Do you know how many Russian soldiers were lost? So about 35,000 regular Russian military. Prigozhin, who makes meat waves out of his mercenaries, literally feeds them in waves into the bullets and lets them die. He lost 30,000.
things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
To the extent that he was imagining a possible outcome. That was
What is that?
Masha, stick around for us if you can. I want to
Oh, I know what it is. Wait a second.
Go to our NBC News chief international correspondent, Keir Simmons. So, Keir, we didn't know when it was coming. It was apparently just a couple.
No, it's okay. I want to. What are you doing?
What did you make of what you just saw?
Yeah, you wanted to go to it. Gotcha.
Well, it's stunning, isn't it? We have been talking today about Russia kind of backing off from the edge of chaos over the weekend. Well, now it's clear that that story really isn't over. What we just heard from President Putin, 5 minutes long, was a national address, but directed really at one person, and that was Yevgeny Prigozhin, whose 11-minute audio recording that he released today was in itself defiant, claiming and saying that he did not intend to try to topple President Putin, but questioning so many things. And now you have, kind of President Putin answering that, talking about the fact that what they tried to do on Saturday was avoid a big bloodshed, describing it, though, once again as a mutiny, just as he did on Saturday, an armed mutiny, saying that it would have been destroyed if they hadn't have come to this agreement, describing it as a tragic mistake. So President Putin not in any sense backing down, just as we heard from Evgeny Prigozhin some hours ago.
Okay, so you know what? They don't know either. He has no idea. All I want to know is, was that live? That's all I want to know. I just want to know, was that live, or was that canned, or was that to tape, or what the hell was that? Where is Vladimir Putin? Where is Prigozhin? Prigozhin says he's in Minsk. We have no freaking earthly idea, okay? He's at the Kremlin. We don't know. Just somebody find out. Somebody for your $30 million, salaries. Go, Keir. Go find out. Matthew Chance, anybody? Can somebody go do some reporting and find out whether or not that was live? This is unbelievable. All right, so here's the backstory. This is why this happened. The United States of America knew this was going to happen. That's number one. We knew about 2 weeks ago. You know how we knew? Prigozhin told us. You know why he told us? He told us so we wouldn't be caught off guard. Basically, what he was saying to the United States is, just imagine I'm Marjorie Taylor Greene and Vlad is Lauren Boebert. Okay? We're going to have a bitch fight. It's getting very Jerry Springer over here. And the reason is because they want me, Prigozhin, to fold my private army, my mercenaries, my fortune, my soldiers of fortune, my empire building tools in Africa especially. He's building himself quite an empire in Africa by providing security services to dictators in Africa in exchange for some minerals and mineral rights. Okay, this is what's going on. It's not very different from America in that particular, sort of mercenary for hire, sort of a Blackwater, Eric Princey thing. Yeah, not that different. But anyway, so what Putin tried to do was he told Prigozhin that he has to fold his private army into the regular military. And Prigozhin was having none of it. He said, I am not doing that. Okay, I am not doing that. You have morons for generals. This Shoigu guy, he keeps putting your generals on the battlefield, and they are getting killed one after the other. How many generals do you have to lose before you lose trust in this Shoigu guy, okay? And then his buddy there, Garamazov, who's like the Joint Chiefs, he's also a loser, okay? And I am not giving my guys who are loyal not to your state, not to a constitution, not to a principle, not even to a country, not even to an island nation, okay? They are loyal to me. They are loyal to moi. They kiss my ass. I'm the one that outfits them. I'm the one that feeds them. I'm the one that gives them better gear than your soldiers get, and they know it. And they don't want to be part of the Russian army. They don't want to be part of your 1950s tank brigades. They don't want to be part of your bullcrap gear where they go out and they have no shoes. They're not doing it, okay? They're not going out there for you. And so Prigozhin understood that was the plan. He told us, look, I got to bitch slap Putin, Okay, and this is internal stuff. This has nothing to do with you. This has nothing to do with China. This has nothing to do with Ukraine. This has nothing to do with anything except it's me and Putin mano a mano, and I am going to take him on. Okay, I'm going to try and coup him, or I'm trying to send and it's really not about Putin. It's about Shoigu and this Karamazov guy. He's like, I just don't want to fold my private guys into this mess of a military. Okay, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. So we're gonna engage in something called the March of Justice. This from a guy who literally feeds convicts that Putin gives him from his gulags to bullets in waves, in meat waves. That's what the Ukrainians call their technique that Prigozhin has been deploying in this Ukrainian battle on Ukraine's own soil, where they were minding their own damn business, doing absolutely nothing to deserve any of this. But Prigozhin decided that he was going to ask Putin to give him convicts, ask him to give him people that were, at the gulag, and he would just, promise them that they wouldn't have to go back to jail if they would just die for him. And that's what they took that deal. And they did die. And they died on the battlefield because Prigozhin's entire, method of fighting is to feed so many bodies that maybe the Ukrainians run out of bullets. That's sick. A war of attrition. You've never, ever seen anything so disgusting. Meat waves, they called it. Okay, so there are no good guys in this. Okay, do not root for Putin. Do not root for Prigozhin. Do not root for Kadyrov or any of these, psychos. Okay, or the guy in Belarus, Lukashenko. These are some serious, repressive warlords. Okay, they are bad humans, bad people. But now, Prigozhin warns us. So we knew. So then all of a sudden on Friday, a videotape landed. I don't think I should play it because it's got lots and lots of dead people in it. Although, I've been an advocate for, showing the results of, guns in schools. Also, war would fall into that category of things everybody needs to see. What does it look like when you have a freaking war? Especially one of attrition, where you fight till the last man dies, which is what's going on over there. It's very sick. It's very sad. It's brutal. But anyway, on Friday night, all of a sudden, we get this videotape. I know a lot of you haven't seen it because it's really gruesome, of what's his name? Prigozhin just flipping out, freaking out, so angry because somebody, according to him, shot missiles into a back camp, a camp in Ukraine that was in the backwoods that had a lot of his fighters sleeping in it. And he decided that he was going to put that on a video. He was going to walk into the shot, show he was there, proof of life, that he was there with the dead people, and start screaming about how the Russian military did this to his mercenaries. And he needs a pound of flesh. He needs, revenge. This is how it started. But if we knew about it 2 weeks ago, like I said, world heavyweight champion liars. Couldn't have been something that happened Friday night, could it? Not if we knew, and we did. And we did. And we were told it's between the brothers, Kay.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
There's no secret to the fact that Prigozhin was very much a critic of the military leadership, the Minister of Defense, the head of the armed forces. So how this now unfolds in terms of personnel, all of that remains to be seen. We are intensely focused on Ukraine and making sure that Ukraine continues to have what it needs to defend itself, to take back the territory that the Russians have seized over the past 16 months. And we're very focused on maintaining the unity of purpose and action that has been a hallmark of Ukraine's success to date. The President brought together not only the National Security Cabinet yesterday, but brought together leaders from among our key allies and partners. He instructed the rest of us to fan out, to engage all of our allies and partners to make sure we were closely coordinating and keeping the focus where it needs to be, on Ukraine, on the efforts that they're making to take back the territory that Russia's taken from them.
I understand that, but just staying on Vladimir Putin for a minute, do you believe that this is the beginning of the end for Vladimir Putin?
I don't want to speculate about that. This is, first of all, an internal matter for Russia. What we've seen is this, though. We've seen this aggression against Ukraine become a strategic failure across the board. Russia is weaker economically, militarily. Its standing around the world has plummeted. It's managed to get Europeans off of Russian energy. It's managed to unite and strengthen NATO with new members and a stronger alliance. It's managed to alienate from Russia and unite together Ukraine in ways that it's never been before. This is just an added chapter to a very, very bad book that Putin has written for Russia. But what's so striking about it is it's internal. The fact that you have from within someone directly questioning Putin's authority, directly questioning the premises that upon which he launched this aggression against Ukraine. That in and of itself is something very, very powerful. It adds cracks. Where those go, when they get there, too soon to say, but it clearly raises new questions that Putin has to deal with.
So the thing that really is upsetting to Putin is the exposing of the lie about the invasion of Ukraine being necessary that he told the Russian people, and of course Fox News told you that it was necessary to denazify Ukraine. And people literally went Nazi hunting. They literally went to look for Nazis in Ukraine here in the United States, trolls on the freaking Twitters and Rumbles. And it was so sick and sad. And I'm just so glad that there's been a pin put in that lie. That is why Vladimir Putin had to attack children and maternity hospitals and apartment blocks and, schools and kindergartens. Yeah, that's why. I mean, it's such garbage. I was so incensed by that particular lie. But then, he also said, oh, well, it was NATO. And Sean Hannity was telling you, well, you can't have NATO on your doorstep. What? Why not? They're for peace. That's what they are. They're peacekeepers. And they just say, all for one and one for all. That's it. Little tiny countries who say, you attack one of us, you attack all of us, because there's power in numbers. Okay, that's bad. Dangerous. Scary. Horrible. The man has nuclear weapons. And not only does he have, ballistic, he's got tactical nukes, which he's just moved to Belarus. And isn't it interesting that Prigozhin says he's been given safe passage to Belarus, which is basically a client state of Vladimir Putin's. Here's the thing. Prigozhin, listen to me now. Listen. If you want to be safe, if you want to be secure, if you want protection, I can give it to you. I can. You know how? You're under indictment in the United States of America ever since the Mueller report identified you, fingered you as being a Russian troll farm operator, and that you interfered in the 2016 election. It would go a long way if you surrendered yourself, told the true story that you did interfere in the 2016 election on behalf of Donald J. Trump, because Russia preferred Donald J. Trump over Hillary Clinton. And if you surrendered yourself, okay, because you're under indictment, we will keep you safe in a nice supermax prison where Vladimir Putin can't get to you. I can guarantee your safety. There. Problem solved. But no, seriously, these guys, they're all bad. They're all like ridiculous. And the only reason why Prigozhin is doing what he's doing, which is, attempting to call out Shoigu and Gerasimov and the whole military industrial complex in Russia, is because he doesn't want to give up his private mercenary firm. And that's why apparently he agreed to go to Belarus. He said he agreed to go to Belarus because, not because he felt safe there or because he didn't think Putin could get to him. He's saying today, I didn't even want to, go after Putin. That's not my goal. My goal was to keep my guys. And as you can see, Putin's military guys like me. They like me better than they like Shoigu. They like me better than they like Putin. They like me better than they like Gerasimov. So why don't you let me be in charge of them and get rid of Shoigu? Right? This is what his pitch is, okay? And so he started marching toward Moscow. And then he realized somewhere along the highway there, Brett noticed that in one of the towns, Voronezh, a oil depot suddenly, it's on fire, just exploded. Now, that is a war tactic. It happens all the time, and it has been happening in the Ukrainian conflict. Oil depots have been set ablaze, as you know, steel factories, nuclear facilities, the largest, electric generating nuclear facility came under attack, Zaporizhia. Everybody understands that this would be in bounds for bastards like this, for war criminals like this. But he noticed that in Voronezh, there was a explosion of an oil depot, and then they went like one more town and then said, all right, we get that there's going to be a lot of bloodshed, it's going to be really freaking ugly. So maybe the message was received, and so now Putin and Prigozhin are making deals. I mean, if I were Prigozhin, I'd keep my food taster real close, and I wouldn't be touching any doorknobs in any country. I mean, Putin obviously can get you, he can get the Skripals, can get his little daughter on a freaking, door latch in the UK. So the only safe place for him, for Prigozhin, is my solution. It's in the Supermax prison in, Colorado, in solitary confinement where no one can get to him after he tells the truth about the troll farm and the Russian interference in the 2016 election. I mean, it's a beautiful solution. It's elegant. It serves justice. It's the right thing to do. But that's probably why it will never be that way, because it is the right thing to do. But anyway, you'll hear this over and over again. Well, we're not getting involved in this because, our focus is helping Ukraine defend itself and take back its territory that was so wrongly taken from them in a very brutal, war crime full effort. I don't even know what to call it anymore. And so we're going to focus on Ukraine. For Russia, this is an internal matter. This has nothing to do with us. Again, it's it has nothing to do with us.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Look at everybody's face. Just for a moment. Just look at everybody's face. It's how everybody was this weekend. It was like, what just happened? I went to the men's room. I came back and the world has changed. What is going on?
If you thought the Russian military was, a disaster beforehand, now you know it. And you know the entire security of Russia relying upon a private military mercenary force like this with no ethics, no morals, absolute atrocities. This is not a normal Western private military, organization.
Normal?
Your whole country is based on that. So this has all been teetering for a long time. I think, when you ask Russia experts, they don't know how this was all going to end, how the Ukraine is going to end, whether Putin is toppled internally or not, because people would say, well, even if he is, we don't know who would replace him. We don't know who the next guy would be, and I don't think anybody thought it would be this guy.
That it would be Prigozhin. Okay, so in the hours after this rebellion started, the Minister of Defense of Ukraine, the official Twitter account, tweeted out, "We are watching." Talk about how will this impact Russia's war on Ukraine?
Well, the Ukrainians, they often use the meme. They say they're eating popcorn.
Yep.
That it's so easy to defeat the Russians. They're just eating popcorn, watching Russian losses. And I heard on the way in, Ukrainian officials saying, we're running out of popcorn. This is so good for them to watch.
Okay, I mean, listen, I have an issue with this guy over here. Okay, maybe he just misspoke, but his name's Kevin Barron. He works for Defense One, which is sort of a military blog. I don't know what to call it. What do we even call online magazines? But that's what Defense One is. Anyways, did he just say, well, so the Wagner mercenaries, they're not like your normal Western private military? What? There's no such thing as a normal private military. That is an armed militia. And because the posse comitatus over here, You don't, so I don't know. I mean, let's just hope he misspoke. But basically, here's the thing, without Putin, the Wagner group can't exist. Without Putin, Kadyrov, I always, who cares about this man? I don't even want to get his name right. He's such an animal. He is a serious, masochist. He's a sadist. He's like the Marquis de Sade, this guy in Chechnya. And, I've been, looking at what Putin did in Chechnya ever since Putin did what he did in Chechnya. And this guy that he has propped up as the leader of Chechnya is he's a sadist. He's a guy who has absolutely, like for fun, he will, behead a person and then go have a picnic and eat the ear. You know what I mean? He's a real psycho. But he's got pictures of Putin lining his avenues, just giant posters of Putin lining the avenues in Chechnya, because Putin thought that he could have, almost a caliphate. He thought that he could have from the Muslim world in Chechnya all the way through Ukraine into Estonia, take that back, and, just keep up, maybe even Finland, maybe even conquer Finland. So that's the sickness that, pervades these pampered little oligarchs, these autocrats, these people who rule through intimidation and lies, and they build these monsters. And then, the dogs of war being what they are, they're going to come back and bite you in the face because they're dogs. They're dogs. But anyway, without Putin, none of these mercenary groups can exist, because where do they get their ammunition? Obviously, they get it from Putin. This is why Prigozhin is so incensed. This is why he's railing about Putin's, generals in this video where he's standing over the dead bodies of at least 30 men that he claims, could have been saved if they would have provided, and by they I mean the regular Russian military generals would have provided his mercenaries with the proper amount of ammunition. And his thing is they didn't. They don't give him what he needs to win in Ukraine. Now, why would Putin authorize a private military in Ukraine in the first place? See, that's the entry-level question that nobody wants to really deal with. But obviously the answer is it's as clear as the nose on my face, okay? It's so that the atrocities, okay, cannot be attached to Vladimir Putin. It's so that when it goes to The Hague and Jack Smith actually is the prosecutor, yes, what's old is new again. Even Prigozhin's, indictments are now germane to this conversation because we can provide him safety and security in our Supermax prison. But when Jack Smith prosecutes at The Hague the war crimes that went on here in Ukraine, the murder of pregnant women, the murder of children, the murder of innocent bystanders, the murder of the elderly, the raping of elderly, the raping of entire towns. I mean, it's just like so Russian. It's so crazily Russian. It's so Stalin. It's so... Stalin loved to starve Ukraine. He loved to starve people. That was it, like slow, miserable death. That was his thing. But it's just history repeating itself, everybody. Nothing new under the sun. But when it gets prosecuted, see, the plausible deniability comes for Putin when he can say, well, this was all done by private mercenaries. I had nothing to do with Chechnya. I mean, this was, them. Yeah, well, where'd they get the ammunition? Where did they get the tanks? Where do they get their gas? See, where do they get food? Where do they get their MREs? Where are they coming from? See, so without Putin, there is no mercenary group. There's none, and that's what everybody is starting to wake up to. Okay, that's what everybody is starting to understand. And so, no matter how much Prigozhin says this is internal, okay, it's between me and the brother, okay, over here. And the whole world is saying that. The whole freaking world. That is their answer. Well, this is an internal situation between Russia and Russia. This is between them. This is not anything that America, this is not anything that France, this is not anything. The UK, they said, something about Putin being weakened by this, but that's as far as they would go. Nobody wants to, say anything because the enemy is destroying itself. And when that happens, you just stand back, relax, and enjoy the show, which is what my point was. Believe it or not, not that they're up to this kind of level, but between, Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene, this is why I said, let them fight. Let them go at each other. Let them, call each other names. Let them bitch slap each other on the House floor. Who cares? I mean, they're destroying themselves. They're destroying their cause. They're destroying their reputation. They're destroying their ability to get reelected. Okay, good. I'm good. But this has to do with a nuclear power. This has to do with a guy who not only has, intercontinental ballistic missiles, but he also has tactical nukes and is threatening to use them on the battlefield and also attack, nuclear facilities in Ukraine and cause some sort of a nuclear meltdown scenario. That is why it's our business. But nobody wants to get involved when the enemy is destroying itself internally. That's why you're going to hear everyone say, well, this is an internal thing. This is between them. This is them and them. This is the two of them going at it. There's nothing any of us care to do or want to do. We don't need to shake up anything. We don't need to, get involved. We don't need to get between them. We don't need to. Oh, yes, we do. And we need assurances that somebody is waiting in the way. All right, I will say this. So Brett and I had this conversation too. It's very, it's not Hunt for Red October. It's Crimson Tide.
Crimson Tide.
It's very Crimson Tide. Yeah. So Crimson Tide was also an awesome, awesome Russian United States, Cold War movie. And it had to do with the nukes, okay? And whether or not our nuclear submarines should fire at their nuclear submarines so that we could end the possibility of thermal global nuclear war. And of course, what happens, it's a great story to show in a movie. It's like gripping, and it's, the dialogue is excellent, and the acting is, beyond. It's so good. But of course, if you have any sense in your head, you will know the ending before you even begin. And so this is not a spoiler alert. This is for anybody who noticed that the world has not gone up in global thermal nuclear flames. And that is that the people who have to fire are us. See, the people that would actually have to put the key in and turn it at the same time as, your comrade or your brethren or your soldier friend, your buddy. We would never do it. And I keep on trying to tell people this. We would never, ever do it. And it does come down to us. It's not like Putin has a little box on his desk and he pushes the little red button. It's not like that. There's a whole chain of things that have to happen. And there's a whole chain of people involved in those things. And I just don't think anybody would do it. Nobody.
Mary had a little man.
We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me. Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
If Prigozhin is for real, how massive is that, right? You just said it. Putin made him, right? Prigozhin is Putin's boy. Imagine what it took for him to turn on Putin.
I think he's lost his mind. I can't.
He being whom?
Prigozhin. To see him make these statements over the last 2 weeks, getting more and more out of control. Yeah. And finally, directly going after this most senior, the Secretary, Minister of Defense, the commander of the armed forces, Russian armed forces, is just astonishing. Unconfirmed reports now are saying that some of the Russian army units are not opposing him, and that the FSB may refuse to arrest him. We'll see, but this will be of enormous interest, not just the Ukrainians, because it'll obviously affect the ground and air war in Ukraine. But at the end of the day, we, the U.S., the European Union, NATO, don't like a nuclear-armed country involved in civil war. And Prigozhin is not a step up from Putin. He's just another gangster.
Right. I'm telling you, it's like it's total mob stuff. This, you have to think about it as if they are nothing but a mafia, okay? Because that is what they are. That is what's going on here, and everything is for power. Everything is for money. That's it, and territory. That's it. That's exactly how Russia is run these days. And now people are starting to see that they're a paper tiger. People are starting to understand that Putin's military is so untrained, and the morale and the willingness to fight their brethren, which is what they consider Ukrainians. They consider Ukrainians and Russians consider each other to be brothers, to be one. They all worship at the same altar of Orthodox Christianity. They share a common history. Sometimes the Russians lost, sometimes the Ukrainians lost, but they all share a common background. And so a lot of the military in Russia was not so keen on attacking Ukrainians, killing Ukrainians, raping Ukrainians, hurting Ukrainians. And so Putin had to manufacture a reason for them to do so. And the reason is now, obvious that it was a lie. He was saying that they were Nazis. He was saying that, NATO, they were organizing with NATO, and that they and NATO countries were going to attack Russia. Well, it's been 16 months. And there's absolutely nothing that says that that was true. There's nothing that says that the Nazi story was true. There's nothing that says that, 55,000, soldiers dead in 16 months. In Vietnam went on for 10 years. We lost 58,000 young Americans in Vietnam in 10 years, and that was horrendous. That was a casualty count that was unconscionable. It was something that America couldn't stomach any longer, the body bags, right? And that's kind of how people, that's why I said the visual is important. People need to see what war looks like. They need to understand that there are dead people involved in war, that there are body bags involved in war, that there are coffins involved in war, and that in those coffins are real young people who died, and that you have to honor them with the truth. You can't send them off to these far-flung places based on lies, okay? Now, I wasn't old enough to say anything about Vietnam, but I was old enough to say something about Iraq, and I said it as loud as I could and as often as I could that it was a lie. The whole thing was based on a lie. Weapons of mass destruction. A lie. This incursion, this invasion of Ukrainians by Russians was also a lie. And the Russian people sort of suspect it, but they live in a closed society where the media is incessantly lying to them. And so either they don't watch it, or they watch it and they believe it and they're good with it. I mean, that's kind of the ass crack of Russia, right? One is on one side, the other's on the other side, depending on whether or not they actually still have faith in the ability for their media to tell them anything that's remotely in relationship to a true thing. So, you have that. But now they all understand that Prigozhin, okay, was taking better care of his guys than Putin was taking care of their sons. And so now you've got the military. And in that report there, you hear, the FSB might not be willing to arrest Prigozhin, and that the military in Russia is more loyal to Prigozhin, which is why he was able to just walk into this little place called Rostov-on-Don, which is right on the border of Ukraine and inside Russia, but right on the border of Ukraine, in the eastern part of Ukraine, the southern western part of Russia. And the reason why Prigozhin was able to go in there so easily is because the 1 million people that live in this city called Rostov welcomed him. They were fine with him coming there. Why did he go there? Because that's where the headquarters is for the entire Ukraine operation. That's where HQ is. And so that's where Prigozhin decided to go. And nobody stopped him. Nobody in Rostov stopped him. And that's not some little podunk thing. I mean, it's got 1 million people in that city, okay? And he's just been emboldened by the fact that nobody is going to stop him if he does something bad to the Russian military complex, because they don't like it. They're not down with it. They don't believe it. They don't believe the lies they've been told. They're done with the maltreatment of their sons. Some of those people that were they weren't protesting, they were cheering him in Rostov over the weekend that you saw. Look at their age, okay? They were all late, like 19, 20, early 20s, 21, 22, 23. That's who was cheering him, okay? Because they feel like he takes better care of his mercenaries than, Putin does of his regular military. Neither of those things is anything to celebrate because Prigozhin's, military is loyal to him, not to any principles, not to any morality. I mean, they will torture you just as fast as you can say, don't rape me. They will. That's who they are. That's what they do. They're brutal. They're brutalizers. They're ex-convicts. Well, they're actually current convicts who've been offered a chance at freedom like gladiators, okay? Just like gladiators. And they have no rules. They have no, respect for human life. Nothing. Not even their own. Not even their own. So there are no good guys in this story. The problem is, as we say, as General Barry McCaffrey said there, the problem is you can't have a civil war in a country that has 2,000 nukes. That is the problem.
There will be some instability in Russia, which has nuclear weapons. There's concern about proliferation if the Russian Republic falls apart into even more pieces. I think on the other hand, too, this is extremely good for the war in Ukraine because even if, as Prigozhin is marching on Moscow, even if that fails, Wagner is out of the fight. And they were a significant part of this effort against Ukraine, not to mention that all around the world, Wagner protects Russian interests, whether it's in Africa, Libya, and other places. This is a massive blow to the Russian Republic, a massive blow to their military effort. And I'll also say it's a massive blow to the people here in the United States, like, say, Tucker Carlson, who have been parroting Putin talking points to have Prigozhin, the head of Wagner himself, say those have been lies. There have been a lot of people parroting those Putin lies, and the head of Wagner even just said those are lies.
Those are lies. I mean, there was no real reason except Putin's lust and his want to take Ukraine. There was no defense reason. Nothing was happening in Ukraine where, Putin had to defend Russia, the awesome Russia from, little Ukraine. There was nothing going on. But did you hear some of the places that Adam Kinzinger just named where Prigozhin is active? Did you hear Libya? Well, maybe you want to remember that, that boatload of people that died, that capsized, that sunk in the Mediterranean were fleeing Libya.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
The Americans are being super quiet, right? The Pentagon also goes quiet in these times. And for the whole life of the war, the U.S. has tried to keep the U.S. military out of the war, out of the narrative of the picture. This is a Europe fight. This is not the United States versus Russia. So I'm not surprised the Pentagon is keeping quiet and watching, and NATO is watching. But again, I think I'm sure intelligence will be directing the Ukrainians to take advantage of what they can. But, we're not sure, at least out here in studio, of who's in charge of the Russian army at the right now, and will these soldiers listen? That's what's going on. There's a public propaganda battle over who's got command, and already you have forces who are not the most loyal in every case.
Real fast, because we're running out of time. What will you be watching as the day goes on, as we watch what's happening in Russia?
I'm watching the ground movements of Wagner forces heading north. I'm watching to see Russian officials stay in Moscow or leave. There are rumors that Medvedev is gone and Shoigu, we don't know where he is, and there have been planes being tracked of people trying to guess if Putin is trying to make a run for it to one of these border states. I doubt that. I don't think that'll happen. But that's what I would keep an eye on. Yeah, well,
I wouldn't. I actually wouldn't keep an eye on any of it. It's completely obvious that if Ukraine wants to take advantage of this moment, that they I hope they have what they need in order to take advantage of this moment. I hope that they can go and take back their cities. I know that the Russian, the Wagner troops are out of Ukraine, and that if it wasn't for the Wagner troops in Ukraine, there would be no more war in Ukraine, because all of the dying that's going on the Russian side in Ukraine is going on in the Wagner group. I mean, he's lost 30,000 of his mercenaries. Putin's lost 25,000 of his regular military. That's what I was saying. 55,000 people have died for Putin's wet dream of building a caliphate and restoring the Soviet Union back to its original glory. I mean, this is real bullcrap. This is real ego stuff. This is real narcissistic, psychotic, fantasies about what ought to be instead of what is. Ukraine is a democracy, and Ukraine was flourishing, and Ukraine was feeding the world by, exporting grain. They weren't bothering anybody. They weren't doing anything that you would find offensive or wrong or illegitimate, or exporting anything poisonous or deadly. Okay, they represented no threat to anybody. They represented grain and sunflowers. Okay, that's who the Ukrainians are. And you know that. And there were some Americans who were so willing to trash them at the behest of Vladimir Putin, which just, wow.
And then in an even more amazing turn, regular Americans in my life are willing to parrot that nonsense.
Oh, wow.
And I hear it in real life, like, go Russia type crap. And it's just mind-boggling.
It is mind-boggling because, Russia is really an also-ran. They have been for a really long time. Their military is a fantasy. It's a illusion. Like I said, I have friends who, served in the Russian military, who fled Russia as soon as they could. And they all told me that a lot of the stuff that you think that Russia had during the Cold War was really rusty crap that they painted. Okay. And it's still like that. And that's why mercenaries, and that's why fake private military forces are engaged. His military, Putin's military, is not going to die to kill Ukrainians. It's not a thing for them to die for. No matter how much he tried to lie about the worthlessness of a Ukrainian, life, no matter how much he tried to make this about NATO incursion and trying to take, conquer Russia or come to, nobody was moving. Nobody was doing any of that crap. Okay, nobody. And now he got caught, and he got caught because he cheaped out on the proper care and feeding of the mercenary group that was dying for him. That was literally making human meat waves for him. And he stiffed them too. This is like so Trumpian, I can't even explain to you. It's like there's nobody that could sacrifice enough that a guy like Putin or Trump would respect that sacrifice. They would never respect it. They would think you were a sucker. They would call you a loser. That's what Donald Trump's view on military men who do sacrifice their lives in service to a constitution, in service to a great democracy, in service to an idea. Right now, these mercenaries, they just sacrifice their lives for a paycheck. Okay, and I don't know which is worse, to believe a fake idea that you need to die in Iraq, because there's weapons of mass destruction there, which was a complete and utter total lie, or to believe that, to serve for money is somehow, terrible. But, look, there's nothing that these people who sacrifice for whatever reason would ever gain the respect of the people they're sacrificing for. And that is sad and sick, but that is very true. And that's why, for a really long time, war's been a racket. Johnny in Texas.
Hey, Randy.
Hey.
In listening to you these past few minutes, I'm still not sure if I have my answer because I feel like I'm still confused about something.
Okay.
Something in my mind is not adding up, and I'm not an accountant by any stretch. So here's what we've heard. We've heard for more than several years now that the Russian economy has been likened to a gasoline station. But yet, Vladimir Putin is able to pay a mercenary outfit, and supposedly they are fully funded with good equipment and uniforms and food. And then I'm hearing you saying that the leader of these mercenaries are complaining that the Russian army is not providing them with the number of bullets that they need and such like that. So I am confused about this. What's really going on here? It can't be just because the people aren't with Vladimir Putin because they don't want to kill their own cousins and brethren. There's something else going on here that's financial that I am totally missing.
So the ammo question, okay. So like I said, these mercenary groups cannot survive without the manufacturers of the ammunition, and in this case, it is Russia. Okay, Russia produces its own stuff. It makes its own airplanes. It makes its own ammo, and it can't keep up with it because they're going through it like underwears. Okay, they're going through it like water, and they can't keep up the production. They're also under sanctions, and so they can't actually go out and shop. So that's the issue.
Hello?
It's not. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, you dropped off for a microsecond there.
Oh, so it's not about the money, it's about the production.
Okay.
Does that help?
Maybe. I've got to think about this some more. It's still...
Listen, it should be. It is a mystery wrapped up in an enigma shoved inside of a
I just wish that we would arrest him and Donald Trump both and put them both in the same trial to save some money and put them both in Guantanamo with no supper and no due process because that's what they deserve.
Well, now all of a sudden, you want to punish terrorists. You want to, force feed them in the, in the stomach and stuff. No.
To speak to Randy, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
It sounds like you're saying this is not over. I mean, it seems hard to believe that Putin, who is known for executing his critics, would allow Prigozhin to move away as a free man, amnesty. I mean, is the rebellion really over?
So much that is beneath the surface has now surfaced, again, in terms of questioning the very premises for the war, in terms of questioning the conduct of the war, in terms of questioning what good this has actually done for Russia. And of course, it's been exactly the opposite. This has been a devastating strategic failure for Putin across virtually every front, economic, military, geopolitical standing, and fundamentally what it's done or not done for the Russian people. Having said that, Putin, of course, has put in place a state that's designed around him with control of the media, control of the information space. So, again, I don't think it's right for us to speculate on where this may go. We're intensely focused on Ukraine, which we've been all along, and that is making sure they have what they need to defend the country and to take back territory that's been seized from them by Russia over the last 16 months. That's where our focus is.
Yay. That's all we should be concerned with. As far as, Prigozhin fighting with Putin and Putin saying, yeah, you're right, our military sucks. And so, you know what, I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you. So that means that you have two madmen running Russia, okay? And one now going from private military mercenary type, command to commanding the entire nuclear arsenal. I mean, there's no good outcome that we should be focusing on with regard to who wins the Prigozhin-Putin fight. Okay, it's like, hey, if Lauren Boebert fought Marjorie Taylor Greene and one of them won, what did America win? Right, nothing. So no matter what the outcome is in this particular argument here, in this particular fight that they are having over there, it's not going to be a good result. It's not going to be anything that everybody's going to, say, hey, yay, let's have a holiday to celebrate that wonderful day that there was this massive breakthrough in Russia. No, it's not going to happen. Listen, maybe Putin needs an off-ramp. Maybe this is part of what's going on. If that's the case and he needs an off-ramp, he needs to blame somebody for his failure in Ukraine. And it's going to be, these generals of his. It's going to be Shoigu. It's going to be, Geramazov. Fine. Give him the off-ramp. Let him go. Just go. Turn around, go. Nobody's going to say anything. Just get off. Go ahead and get off the highway. The rest of it, I don't want to see. But, the idea that, listen, I want you to understand the geopolitical aspect of what happened last week, even though, we didn't really talk about it because I didn't think that anybody, would pick up on what was really happening on a geopolitical, a stage. But, we had India. We had India come over here, and India is very much on the side of Russian cheap oil. Okay, that's kind of, and he's an autocrat too over there. And so everybody was like criticizing Biden. Why is Biden hosting an autocrat? Why is Biden hosting this guy from India that doesn't believe in, free speech and doesn't believe in, marrying who you want, all this stuff, right? Why are we do? Because he was trying to tell India, you watch, here's what's going to happen. You're going to see cracks. You're going to see unbelievable amount of distrust and Russia's going to be, fragmented and falling apart. And I don't know if you really want to lay down with them or listen to what we can offer you. And I don't know what that is. Okay. I don't know what he told India would be, beneficial to India. That would mean more than, selling cheap Russian oil. But the same thing with China. Okay. This is the same thing that China is now sitting straight up in their seats saying, oh my God, so we threw in with Russia and Xi told Putin, oh, we'll be friends no matter what you do. We're friends for life. We're unconditional. We're bound together. They got a big ass border, okay? China and Russia. And Xi was like, yeah, I'll throw in with her. And now all of a sudden Xi sees that he's a paper tiger. He sees that his military can't fight. He sees that the mercenaries don't want to fight for him. He sees that he's disarmed. Maybe even unarmed. You really think China wants to cozy on up to Putin? You really think India thinks, oh yeah, that's where I should be with the weak one? I should be with the one that's broken. I should be with the one that's got internal problems. They're fighting amongst themselves. I should be with the one that looks like it might have a civil war? I don't think so. I don't think that's in our best interest. So there's a lot of, interesting things to look at with regard to this story. But if anybody tells you that they definitively know what's going to happen, or that it's over, or that this isn't, a story in flux, or it doesn't have many more parts, to play, they're telling you stuff that you can't know. No one could know. No one knows. You know why? Because Putin is an enigma wrapped up in a mystery stuffed inside of a riddle. Because Putin's not going to be loyal to the idea of Russia, even though he loves Russia more than Trump loves the United States, okay? Trump couldn't give a rat's ass about the United States. He couldn't care about America or the Constitution, never even bothered to learn it, okay? I will say that Vladimir Putin is much more loyal to the idea of Russia than Trump is with the idea of America. But Putin is going to serve Putin, and Trump is going to serve Trump. In the end, they are going to be loyal to their own ability to exert power and make money. These are transactional people. I will say Putin is much more grounded in nationalism, meaning love of country in this weird white supremacist sort of way, than Donald Trump is. Donald Trump is married to absolutely no principles. None. He doesn't have any morals. He doesn't. Now, Putin is a killer, right? But Donald Trump will stick up for him. Donald Trump has stuck up for him. When Bill O'Reilly asked Donald Trump, why does he support Putin? And he says, Putin is a killer. Donald Trump's answer was, what, do you think we're so innocent? So he literally trashed America on national television in order to befriend Vladimir Putin. When Putin got caught getting involved in our election via Prigozhin. Okay, that was his operative. That was his troll farm operator. That was his guy. Donald Trump literally went to Helsinki, Finland, and stood on a stage and defended Vladimir Putin and said Vladimir Putin denied that he interfered in our election. And I don't see why he would have. I don't see why he lied. He said it very strongly. He said it very quickly and strongly. He's very powerful. He said it very powerfully. This is what evil people do. They find each other in the world and then they pat each other on the back because no one's willing to do the horror that they are in service to themselves. And that's why we're all suckers and losers. That's why peaceful people are all in their minds suckers. We're here to be played by them because we're not willing to commit atrocities. We're not willing to stab people in the back. We're not willing to bomb children. We're not willing to gas theaters, okay, full of people. They are, and they think that that makes them somehow superior, which is very, very sick. It ain't over.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Under the Presidential Records Act, which is civil, not criminal, it's done in 1977, civil, I had every right to have these documents, personal belongings, in boxes.
Keep confessing.
Joe Biden didn't. Even Mike Pence didn't have that right. They weren't covered by the Presidential Records Act. I was, because I was president, but they weren't. But these scoundrels and thugs, they only come after me. They didn't go after the many, many other presidents that kept their documents. You know about it. Many, many others. If you look at the Bush family, if you look at
the Bush family,
even Jimmy Carter, and I say
Jimmy
he's innocent.
Carter.
I say Jimmy Carter's innocent, but they went after me. They didn't go after anybody else, and they went after me criminally. And it's not a criminal violation. It's not even a violation under the Presidential Records Act.
Okay, he's bat crap. You understand that he's insane. You know that there's something wrong with him, that his brain is gone, it's shot, it's literally bottom of the barrel thinking here. He's not being charged under the Presidential Records Act because it is actually a civil thing, number one. Number two, the Presidential Records Act actually requires that you turn over presidential records to the National Archives. He is distorting the reason why we have a Presidential Records Act. The reason why we have a PRA because of Nixon. Because Nixon was taking things and destroying them. His own tapes, his own documents, his own things, to make it so that what he did didn't happen. And what Nixon did was burgled. Okay, he was a burglar. He ordered the Democratic National Committee headquarters to be burgled. And then he tried to cover up the crime. You know, it's the same damn crime here, right? You understand that now that we're talking about Russia and Prigozhin. Okay, what got hacked? What got hacked? The Democratic National Committee. What did Richard Nixon burgle? The Democratic National Committee. You see how history repeated itself here, except one was done digitally and the other one was done physically by G. Gordon Liddy and the plumbers? Okay? And Donald Trump doesn't want to tell anybody that follows him or believes in him or worships him or, I don't know, is loyal to him or is in his cult that the Presidential Records Act is exactly what we came up with when Richard Nixon was trying to cover up his crime of burglarizing the Democratic National Committee headquarters. The Russians did it at the behest of Donald Trump. And oh my God. Honest to God, I don't know why people listen to him. I really don't understand why people don't know what the Presidential Records Act is and why we have one.
He continues to claim that he has all these privileges and rights under the Presidential Records Act. Is he mischaracterizing the act?
Absolutely.
The legal theory by which he gets to take battle plans and sensitive national security information as his personal papers is absurd. It's just as wacky as the legal doctrine they came up with for, having the vice president unilaterally determine who won the election. The whole purpose of the statute, the Presidential Records Act, was to stop presidents from taking official documents out of the White House. It was passed after Watergate. That's the whole purpose of it. And therefore, it restricted what a president can take. It says it's purely private, that had nothing to do with the deliberations of government policy. Obviously, these documents are not purely private. It's obvious, and they're not even now arguing that it's purely private. What they're saying is the president just has sweeping discretion to say they are, even though they squarely don't fall within the definition. It's an absurd argument.
It's bizarre. It's bizarre. So now, what's going on with Bill Barr over here? What is going on? He's become Robert Mueller's evil twin. I mean, he's literally like Jack Smith's brother now, right? They're brothers in crime. They're brothers in justice and seeing that justice is done. I don't know how Bill Barr switched sides like that, but I can tell you why he went and decided to be there for Donald Trump, why he put that op-ed in a newspaper saying that Donald Trump was right to fight the Russia investigation and blah, blah, blah. He did it because he needed to sidle up to the narcissist in order to get what he wanted. And what he wanted was the Federalist Society's court picks. Okay, that's what Bill Barr wanted. He wanted the Opus Dei right-wing Catholic version of Christianity represented in our law. He wanted Roe v. Wade overturned. He wanted as many Supreme Court justices as he could help shepherd through. And he was the guy that took Leonard Leo's list of acceptable Opus Dei Catholic judges and gave it to Donald Trump and said, here you go. This is the list you pick from. You got that? Yeah, I got it. Okay, good. Now I got you. And once it was done, now I got to turn my back on you. I swear they all behave like mob bosses because that's what they are. They're not loyal to an idea of democracy. They're not loyal to a constitution. They're not loyal to the American people. They're not loyal to the idea of America or anything. That they're loyal to power, and they're loyal to their own particular creed. Their own particular view of the world, their own worldview, as we used to call it. And by hook or by crook, they're gonna get there. They're gonna cheat. They're gonna lie. They're gonna represent scoundrels. They're gonna give people, talking points to, disembowel, all arguments that are leveled against them once they're caught, right? Because that's what Bill Barr does. But I mean, it's so insincere, and it's such a ruse. And obviously, they're doing it with disdain for you. They're doing it with disdain for me. They're doing it with disdain for this country. They are not in service to this country. They're in service to their own particular ideas. And if their idea is taking rights away from you, so be it. If their idea is to have a religious doctrine that says who can and when can you and with whom you reproduce, that's too bad for you. You thought you lived in a free country, but you don't. You live in a country that Bill Barr decided would look like this. That's it. That's where we're at. They're not, and all of us that think that America is an idea, that think that the road that we're on is long, but that it will bend toward justice, that if we keep on going, it will eventually will make it more correct, will make it more just, will make it, more perfect. They think we're idiots, okay? They think we're suckers. They think we're losers because they abuse their power. They abuse their law degrees. They abuse their positions, and we don't. And somehow in their minds, that makes them superior. And it's really disgusting because what they are shoving down your throat is morality. And these are the most immoral people when it comes to, what they will do to affect their goal, what they will do to make it look the way they want it to look. Is so immoral. And yet what they want to do is legislate morality for you and me. It's sick. It's twisted. And it could only, I mean, it can't stand the test of time. It could only stand a Bill Barr argument, the test of a Bill Barr argument. That's it. That's all they got. That's all they got.
You know, in another parallel with MAGA being a cult, as the Church of Scientology rolls on, you've got all these high-profile people who leave the church and form this cadre of dissenters that are vocal about how terrible this cult is and how you've been fooled. And just like that, you've got this cadre of dissenters like Cohen and Barr and Bolton and all these people who are so willing to come out after they leave the cult and tell you how terrible the leader is.
Yeah, except that this isn't a private enterprise, okay? And these aren't Hollywood stars. These are people that are using, degrees that are bestowed on them, positions of honor and trust that, we bestow upon them. And the idea that they are, doing it for their own ends and that their means are immoral has absolutely nothing to do with any, organized religion that, it may or may not be on the up and up. I mean, it just doesn't. But this is total abuse of power. This is total abuse of position. This is total abuse of your seat of honor at the table as the Attorney General. Think about what his title was. The Attorney General of the United States of America, who really became Donald Trump's defense attorney. I mean, really, it was in service to him, not to you and not to me. And the idea that he was in service to him, that we called him out, makes him tell us, well, you're an idiot, because you would do it too. Except, no, we wouldn't. Oh, well, then you're a loser. Well, then you're a sucker. You would die for your country? Really? You would die for your... Well, that makes no sense to a guy like me. When they called me, I had bone spurs. When they called me, I was in law school. When they called me, I was, I was flat-footed, or, I had a polynidal cyst, right, Dick Cheney? I mean, birds of a feather. Birds of a feather. But everybody, what goes up must come down.
Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me. Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
Hello, everybody. It's June 28th.
What happened today is that the U.S. Supreme Court, by a 6-3 decision, rejected Donald Trump and the Republican Party's legal theories. So Trump in 2020, he lost those 60 cases in state court. And his theory was, well, state courts don't matter. And this is now the theory of the Republican Party. State constitutions don't matter. The only thing that matters, they say, is what state legislatures do. They can do anything they want, unconstrained by the Constitution, unconstrained by courts. To describe that legal theory, Lawrence, is basically to demonstrate how ridiculous it was, because everyone who's taken 7th grade civics knows that there are checks and balances. And today, Chief Justice Roberts, joined notably by Trump appointees Brett Kavanaugh and Amy Coney Barrett, said, no, that's not our Constitution. The Constitution doesn't say legislatures can, do monkey games with polling places or with absentee ballots, or, have legislatures, as Trump wanted, totally displace the popular vote and send their own slate of fake electors to the Electoral College in Washington, D.C. No, you don't get to do that. That's what the Chief Justice said today on behalf of the Supreme Court.
Mwah. Love you, Neil Katyal. He actually argued that case in front of the Supreme Court. Neil Katyal did, the actual TV lawyer in that TV clip. He's also a real lawyer, and he argued that case on our behalf for common cause. Okay, to say this is ridiculous. And this is the case that I've been watching and telling you about for the entire session of this here Supreme Court's session, right? It's Moore v. Harper, or some of my, loyal clients in the audience, because they know I always flip it. I either say Harper v. Moore, or, I get it back. So they've decided it's Mary versus Rhoda. Mary versus Rhoda. Tyler Moore versus Valerie Harper. See what I mean? See what they did there? Yeah. Anyway, it went the normal way. Okay, it went the normal way. So this was a case that I swear to God, everything that he just said, I told you would have happened if the Supreme Court listened to hacks and fools like Rudy Giuliani, like John Eastman. This was John Eastman's, this was his baby. This was his, gift to the world, was this independent legislature theory saying that the state legislatures choose the time and the manner in which the state selects its slate of electors, right? And we keep telling you that in the United States, we don't have one election. Everybody, just takes it for granted that the second Tuesday in November is election day and that everybody is voting in the same election. Not true. Not true, my friend. Every state is holding its own election. Every single state runs an election. That's why some states have, amendments on the ballot. Other states have questions on the ballot. Some states say you have to have 2/3 of the people put something on the ballot. Some states say you can vote until 7 o'clock. Some say 6 o'clock. Some say absentee. Some do it all by mail. Some say drive through here, 24 hours, a drop box over here, no over there, right? I mean, it's 50 states. Each state choosing the manner in which they select their electors. What this particular theory was arguing was who needs an election at all? No one needs an election. If the states that we control now by supermajorities, if the Republican states actually lift themselves up by their bootstraps and demand that they can choose the manner, and the manner to select the electors does not include the people, then that's what we want the Supreme Court to sign off on. So the Supreme Court said, we're going to decline. We're going to pass. We're not going to do the worst thing possible. And now everybody's cheering. Oh, look, the Supreme Court is ruling for the people, or the Supreme Court. No, the Supreme Court is saying, oh, so you want to suppress and subvert. Well, pick one. Can't have both. But just remember, where the Supreme Court of the United States of America will always have Bush v. Gore. Remember that? Yeah. So they left a little wiggle room. We won't know how much wiggle room is in this decision. There are some, sloppy words, let's say. There are some words that could be wiggled around or twisted or not interpreted properly, and these people who love words, they didn't exactly describe what they meant when they said ordinary bounds. Now, let's not concern ourselves with this particular passage here, okay? Because we'll find out next time there's a contested election what ordinary bounds actually means when reviewing laws governing federal elections. Okay, we'll find out. We're going to find out shortly. We're going to find out in 2024. Believe me, we will. But the court has put the brakes on this particular theory, on this particular doctrine that would allow elections to be hijacked, to be stolen, literally, from the voters by Republican legislators who don't like the result of the election. And the courts would not be allowed to intervene. The courts in the states would not be allowed to say, whoa, we saw that magic trick. You think that prestidigitation of yours, that misdirection is fooling us? No, we know what you did with those votes. We saw what you did there. And we're not allowing it. And they said in this theory that the state courts have no role to play. Now, this did start with a gerrymandering map. This case started in North Carolina with a map that was so racially gerrymandered that even the lower court said your map is so racially gerrymandered. Fix it. But they paused it. So people did vote in the midterms, this past 2022 midterms. They did vote under these horrible gerrymandered maps. Why? They voted under horribly gerrymandered maps in the midterm in North Carolina, in Alabama, and in Louisiana. And just now they're getting around to saying, those maps were really freaking awful. They were racially gerrymandered, And so Louisiana just got what we were arguing for, their second Democratic district because 37% of the population is African American, is black, and they gave them one district in the whole state out of 7 districts. They got one, and the court said that's wrong. That's wrong. Fix it. So now going into 2024, some things map-wise are going to be remedied. Okay, and they're going to actually represent the voters who live in that state. Well, they can't win. You understand? Republicans can't win in that case. So they decided to bring the subversion tactic to the Supreme Court, okay, in tandem with the suppression case. And the Supreme Court wasn't going to hear the subversion case. They weren't even going to hear it. And a lot of people were arguing for them to pass on it. Just pass on it. Don't hear it. Don't hear it. Supreme Court did one thing good yesterday. They said, no, we're going to hear it and we're going to give a decision. And our decision is, you're kidding, right? Really? You want to suppress and subvert? Pick one. We'll always have Bush v. Gore. I'm telling you, that was the message that was in this particular case. But in case you were wondering what the origin of it is, we can show you. But today, we all need to bow down and thank from the bottom of our democratic hearts, and I don't mean as a party, I mean as a society, as a system of self-governance. We all need to thank not just Neil Katyal, who he was the Solicitor General for the United States. He argued cases on behalf of the people of the United States before the Supreme Court as a government solicitor. Now he was representing Common Cause and some other groups that believe in democracy and picking our own president. You know, what a concept. But he also was joined in that endeavor by that particular judge that is so conservative that you can't even believe that he would actually have anything in common with me or with Neil Katyal. And that's Judge Ludick, who said that Donald Trump presented a clear and present danger. That conservative judge and Neil Katyal argued this case for us and won.
Randy at RandyRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Okay, everybody, here are the oranges of the of the independent legislature theory. Okay, here it is.
At the core of Trump's attempted coup, and there's a bunch of things going on, but at its core, as articulated by John Eastman, as he told Rusty Bowers, is this bizarre, to my mind, facially ludicrous fringe idea that conservatives ran with after their scheme failed to return Trump to the White House. It's called the independent state legislature theory, although calling it a theory gives it a little too much credit. And it would give state legislatures plenarily, virtually unchecked power over federal elections. It was an idea infamously pushed by coup memo author John Eastman and his allies in Congress. Basically says state legislatures are the ultimate arbiters of how elections are run in a state, no matter what state law or state officials or, crucially, state courts say.
All we are demanding of Vice President Pence is this afternoon at 1 o'clock, he let the legislatures of the state look into this so we get to the bottom of it and the American people know whether we have control of the direction of our government or not. This is bigger than President Trump. It is the very essence of our Republican form of government, and it has to be done. And anybody that is not willing to stand up to do it does not deserve to be in the office. It is that simple.
That was the speech at the Ellipse right before an angry mob went to the Capitol and bashed a bunch of cops' brains in.
Right.
The insurrection on January 6th failed in its goal to subvert democracy. It failed to keep Donald Trump in office for a second term. But in many ways, the spirit of the coup, of Donald Trump's multi-pronged plan to overturn the election results, continued and continues. I mean, we've seen in state after state, like Arizona, Georgia, and Texas, Republicans stripping power from state elections officials and candidates vowing to abolish bipartisan election commissions in states like Wisconsin. So this time it wasn't a violent mob, but politicians, locally elected officials at the state level, trying to carry out a version of Eastman's vision, right? To take power back from any official that has it delegated and give it all to the state legislatures so that they can run elections entirely. Not coincidentally, those are also the places where Republicans have a lot of control.
Yeah, you're starting to see the picture here. You're starting to understand what I've been, telling you now that everybody is talking about it. Yeah, we all knew. We all knew. This audience knew. They knew exactly what Moore v. Harper was all about. They understood the independent legislature theory was bogus. It was so laughable. Do you remember that when Eric Hirschman, the White House attorney, heard John Eastman's independent legislature theory, heard that John Eastman thought that the legislatures could overturn the results of an election if they were unhappy with the results of said election, and they could choose a slate of electors that they preferred? Do you remember what Eric Hirschman told John Eastman? He said to him, "You better get a good effing lawyer, because this is criminal." Remember that? That is the independent legislature theory. That is where it was born. That is where it was birthed, everybody. That is where it comes from. That is why they kept insisting that the election was stolen, so that they could perpetuate and propound this crazy theory that only the state legislators, especially in supermajority held Republican states, could pick the slate of electors without the courts interfering, without the courts overseeing, without the courts doing anything at all to countermand them, to say, no, you don't have that right. And so the Supreme Court decided it was indeed a bizarro world theory. And do you remember the other conversation that happened around this theory? Let me refresh. So one of the lawyers in the White House said to Eastman, if you argued this in front of the Supreme Court, what do you think it would be? And one of the lawyers said to John Eastman, because it will be 9-0, right? It would be 9-0. Because this is not constitutional, your little stupid idea, okay? And Eastman said, no, I don't know. I think it would be 7-2. In reality, now we know the answer to that riddle stuffed inside of Enigma, slapped inside of a mystery. It was 6-3. That's what the Supreme Court said about his ridiculous theory. 6-3, which means there are 3 lunatic fringe justices on that Supreme Court that are willing to say that you're such an idiot. You're so not important. Your opinion matters not. So much so that you don't even need to bother to vote. Your state legislature has the authority and the right to choose the slate of electors in a presidential election. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. So, yeah, it's the typical ones. It's Alito and Clarence and Gorsuch. Those are the 3. You better keep your eye on them, because that is crazy. That is unconstitutional. That is bizarro world. That is a magic trick. That is a magic trick that says not only can you suppress the vote with illegal maps that can't be questioned by the court, but then you could subvert the vote if you don't like the result, because you are the state legislators and you get to choose the slate of electors. 3 Supreme Court justices were willing to say, yup, that floats my boat. That does it for me. I'm down with that. Wow. That is 3 justices too many to say such a thing. Unbelievable. So basically the decision says you have to do a better job of cheating, right? That's really where it landed. You have to do a better job of cheating. You have to hide it better. It's like what Putin did with Prigozhin, right? He's like, okay, I'll let you live, but I reserve the right to clandestinely kill you any time of my choosing. That is what the Supreme Court did yesterday, even in the 6-3 decision. They put some very, fungible, let's call them, words that have, a lot of elasticity to them, saying, well, the court can interfere in the ordinary bounds, and they didn't define what ordinary bounds is, and that's why I said let's not concentrate on ordinary bounds, because we're about to find out. We're going to have a presidential election in 2024, and if Donald Trump is the Republican nominee, trust me, no matter what the result is, they're going to contest it. He will. And it will go right to them, right to the Supremes. And, okay, we already know Clarence and Alito and Gorsuch will, say, let the state electors be chosen by the legislatures. I don't care. I don't care. We picked the president. Okay, we're good. Independent state legislature theory. Okay. It should be called the omnipotent Trump theory. That's what it should be called. The all-knowing, the all-seeing. I am the alpha and the omega. I alone can win. I alone can fix it. I alone am your God, your creator. And there's 3 on the Supreme Court that are like, I'm good with that. I'm down. Okay. I mean, no muss, no fuss. You pick the president. I don't care. People in this country are too idiotic. They're too stupid, and they're inconsequential to the actual agenda that we have set for this here country, which has nothing to do with popular opinion. It has to do with minority-majority rule, and we need to cheat.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
What the Republican Party was saying in the North Carolina court and then the U.S. Supreme Court is that state legislatures can write all of the rules for elections any way they want. They don't have to care about their own constitution. They don't have to care about their own courts. So this case was about gerrymandering and election maps, but the ultimate theory is about everything. It's about voting hours, absentee ballots, anything involving an election. And the Republicans were saying, courts, you have no business doing anything. It's just raw political power that will decide this. That's a crazy theory. If you know anything about American history, our whole system is based on checks and balances. But going up into this argument, a lot of people thought that we would lose. Even after the argument, Joy, I mean, one of the hardest things for me was that all the people that claimed to be on my side went and told the Supreme Court they lacked the jurisdiction to hear this case, and they were afraid and wanted to get it out of the court. And, those arguments were so wrong, so misguided, and they stand as a really powerful lesson that if you carefully study and take seriously United States Supreme Court decisions, litigants can win cases that stand up for our democracy, even in this court.
Even in this one. But you got to understand that there are three in this one that thought, yeah, sure, fine. You want to suppress and subvert? Go for it, because the American people are so stupid. They're so inconsequential. They matter so little to us. And our agenda of being, corporations are people, my friend, and money should come rolling into us too in Citizens United. Every billionaire should have their very own Supreme Court justice. We have a few of them still for sale if you'd like to purchase. Some of them are, they're not really, really interested in the whole slavery thing. They're not really interested in being owned by billionaires, but, I'm sure there's a point at which they will surrender their individuality or their opinions, and they will submit to the awesome power of billionaire dollars. You still have Ketanji Brown Jackson, who declared Oprah's flowers. Because when Oprah sends flowers, she sends the very best. And so it was like $1,200 worth of a flower arrangement. And Ketanji Brown Jackson, on her financial disclosure form, which requires her to report gifts, she actually reported that. I think it was Sonia Sotomayor, or Eleanor Kagan, somebody gave bagels. And the bagels had, nice sable. Yeah, had $20 worth of sable, which is better than lox. I mean, it's good. Really, really good. And she declared that these people over here, buy my mother's house. I don't need to tell anybody about any of that. Now we find out that Alito, who did decide Roe, Leonard Leo has surrounded his particular billionaire-owned justices, surrounded them with parties and like-minded people and Federalist Society events and Heritage Foundation events and friends that are all like-minded and dinners, and gives them awards and makes them feel prestigious in their own little micro world. And talks them into believing that, women don't have the right to privacy. Only men do. And surely you can see that. So Alito was the author of this thing. And then Alito had the nerve. Think about this, okay? He said somebody leaked the Roe v. Wade decision to interfere with it, okay? And it caused the justices who signed on to sending Roe back to the states. This is the whole independent legislature theory, right? Only the states can decide things that, are obviously civil rights under the U.S. Constitution, equal protection under the only states can decide. So then he said that the justices who were willing to do that, to send what was federally protected rights of women, equal protection under law for women, back to the states, that their lives were in danger, right? That people were threatening the lives of Alito and Clarence and other Supremes. And he said it was because somebody leaked that decision. And yet, when it was time for him to actually go find out who and how that decision got leaked, he chose not to engage any law enforcement, even though their lives have been threatened, according to him. No, he chose to do it himself with absolutely zero expertise in detective work or law enforcement or nothing. I mean, they have absolutely nothing. They don't even have a person who's in charge of stuff like that at the Supreme Court. But his life was in such danger. So you know that these people are disingenuous at the very best, liars at the worst. But he's the one that wrote Roe. Now we're finding out that in their world, something that is unethical isn't necessarily illegal, and therefore it's doable. So we found out that Clarence is, befriended by Leonard Leo's buddy, Harlan Crow, and Harlan Crow is going to put, Justice Thomas's grandnephew or some such crap through boarding school and through private school. And he's going to buy his mother's house and make sure she's never burdened with a rent payment or a mortgage payment or a tax payment or anything connected to home ownership in her latter years, to take it off of Clarence's plate, something he doesn't even have to tend to, right? And then we find out that, what's his face took a fishing trip. Alito took a fishing trip, right? A fishing trip that was paid for by a guy who had 10 different cases involving his hedge fund, Paul Singer's hedge fund, in front of the Supreme Court, and nobody ever recused themselves from hearing those 10 cases. Now we're finding out, and then we found out Judge Roberts' wife actually recruits lawyers for law firms who will argue cases in front of her husband, right? So she vets them to see if they're smart enough to keep up with her husband and, prevail. And now we find out that Alito's wife also is making money in the oil and gas business off of a 160-acre plot of land in Grady County, Oklahoma, which she leased to an oil and gas company that is actually running a pipeline on her land, and she is garnering, I think it's 3/16 of every penny that they make in profit on that pipeline. So it's a little less than a quarter of the profit. Now, when you're talking, multiple millions of dollars, a quarter of the profit is, ask any real estate agent. That's a good haul. Okay, that's a nice chunk of change. Turns out that while she is contracted with this oil and gas company in Oklahoma that is running pipeline on her property, it sounds like a porn movie, Alito is watching the EPA and deciding cases having to do with the Environmental Protection Agency, that is deciding whether or not we get clean water and clean air and clean, clean land. I mean, you can't make it up. So everybody's wondering, why are they doing the right thing all of a sudden with the voting? Why are they saying that Alabama and Tennessee, now Ohio and Wisconsin, are going to have to? Because it's one or the other. You can't have both.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
It was definitely surprising to see Barrett and Kavanaugh come across with Roberts. Kavanaugh took a somewhat more nuanced and slightly different position than Roberts, but still, that's still a 6-3 supermajority, and it suggests there aren't that many votes in play for this theory that kind of puts state legislatures at the apex of deciding how a presidential election comes out. That wasn't the core issue in the case. It was more around the issue of redistricting and the power of state legislatures in other federal elections, but it definitely undercuts this case that some conservative legal activists were trying to make to sort of go back to a more old-fashioned approach where maybe there didn't even need to be elections and the electors in each state could just be picked by the political leaders there.
I mean, what kind of people are you, you right-wingers voting for? What kind of people do you choose? People that really want to take away and do right in front of your freaking face your freedom? People who stand on the letter F, except it doesn't really stand for freedom, and they tell you it does. Okay, and then they take away your right to travel. They take away your right to access, your own decisions. You can't even make your own decisions. You can't. They ban books, okay? They say parental rights unless they don't like the way you're parenting, right? They don't like it. They don't like how your child is turning out. They don't like what your child is learning. They don't like history. They don't like, a lot of stuff about your kids. They don't want your kids to share space with their kids. So then all of a sudden your right as a parent goes, woo, right out the window. I mean, they are, and you continually vote for them. You continually do. You keep on saying, take it all away. I can't handle it. I can't handle decisions. I can't make a decision. I don't want to make a decision. Make it for me. What are you, a bunch of old men who don't even know what you want for dinner? You see, this is the problem, okay? You got a bunch of old, pasty white men who don't even know what they want for dinner. But God help me if I move their chair. They get all unnerved and stuff, and they want to lash out. But ask them to make a decision. Oh, no, can't do it, can't have it, can't be there, can't make it, can't. No decision is a good decision. If I decide nothing, I've still decided. I mean, come on. This is crazy. So now we have Alito and his wife and a corrupt Supreme Court, and you're going to keep on voting for Republican legislatures, and you're going to keep on voting for Republican presidents who want to totally take away the last bastion of scoundrels, an election. They want to take away that last participatory thing that you got because you're an idiot and they don't trust your decision making. And only the idiots that you elect can actually make the decision for you. And there are people in this country that are like, yes, I like that idea. I want people to make decisions for me. I want them to choose the president of the United States. I mean, how and that is what this case was really about. And this was the most important case that the Supreme Court heard this particular. Well, we still got affirmative action, which should be just a barrel of laughs, okay? That, racism is over and we don't need affirmative action anymore. And, the idea that we need diversity because the more diverse the mindset, the more diverse the thinking, the more diverse the problem solving, the better the answer. No, we don't want that. We want one way and one way only, and that's, the Republican way. And the Republican way says parental rights except when we don't like the way you're parenting. It says you're free to say anything, but you're not free to read everything. You're free to make your own decisions about family, except when we say that you are pregnant, you will have that child. We just don't give a damn about any of it. We don't care who you had it with. We don't care if it was a rapist, if it was your uncle, if it was your Uncle Daddy. We don't care. We don't care. Freedom is not for the free. Freedom is for us. So I don't know, but I will say Liz Cheney actually put her finger on it. This was brilliant. This was really smart. She went to New York City, believe it or not. This is Liz Cheney at the 92nd Street Y, which is one of the great YMCAs that we have in the country. It does a lot of political stuff. And she showed up there for a talk. And here's what she said.
What we've done in our politics is create a situation where we're electing idiots. And And so I don't look at it through the lens of like, you know, is this what I should do or what I shouldn't do? I look at it through the lens of how do we elect serious people? And I think electing serious people can't be partisan.
That's the key, baby. That's the answer. That's the what's going on? Brett? Oh, scared me. Thought you passed out. Oh. All right, Jeannie in Pennsylvania.
Yes, ma'am. I'm Jeannie.
Well, speak.
I want to know why you're always bashing all the Republicans on TV.
Well, because they're not serious.
They're not serious.
Correct.
There's not been one Democrat ever that was for the working man.
Sorry?
There hasn't been one Democrat ever.
Are you kidding me? Who actually wants to allow for unions to, and who has the right to work state crap that bars unions? Which party is responsible for unions, and which party is responsible for you not being able to collectively bargain? Tell me.
Well, I don't belong to a union, so I don't know anything about that.
You don't know anything about who's for unions and who's against unionization? You don't know. But yet you're going to say Democrats are not for the working guy? Okay, here's the mysterious answer to the difficult question, Jeannie. Joe Biden is the most pro-union president. Most Democratic presidents are pro-union. The Republican states are the right-to-work states, which is really an oxymoron, meaning you can't organize. In Florida, you can't organize a union. You can't create a union shop. You can't collectively bargain in the state of Florida. You know what they call unions in Florida? Socialism, or sometimes they call it communism. Want to hear an idiot? Want to hear a Republican idiot who's a senator in Florida?
Senator Rick Scott here.
Hi.
Let me give you a travel warning. If you're a socialist, communist, somebody that believes in big government, I would think twice. Think twice if you're thinking about taking a vacation or moving to Florida.
What?
We're the free state of Florida. We actually don't believe in socialism. We actually know people, and some people in our state lived under it. We know people lived under socialism. It's not good. It's not good for anybody. So if you're thinking about it, if you think about coming to Florida and you're a socialist or communist, think twice. We like freedom, liberty, capitalism, things like that.
Okay, so number one, idiot boy there was found guilty of the largest Medicare scam fraud in the history of Medicare. He was the CEO of HCA hospitals. We still have them here, okay? One of them is called JFK. It's owned by HCA, but we call it Just Effin' Kill Me. That's what JFK stands for. Just effing kill me. Okay, that's his hospital. Anyway, they did all kinds of, fraudulent billing for things that they didn't even do. And they enriched themselves. And Rick Scott was the CEO of that company, okay? Because it was a corporate thing, he didn't go to jail, right? It's just money, civil. So they paid like $1 billion or something like this. Now he is a senator from a tourist state. The number one industry in the state of Florida is tourism. And he's actually telling people, don't come here. Actually telling people, don't come here. Because socialists, by the way, Medicare is socialist. You understand that. So is the military, right? We all get military protection regardless of our ability to pay for it, right? Okay. So Medicare too, you pay in. And then when you turn 65, you're eligible to get those benefits, right? Social Security is called Social Security because it's socialist. You pay in, and then at the end you take out. Okay, so it's the young workers that are supporting the old workers, classic socialism. He's against socialism in a state of retirees and tourism. You want to tell me that he's a serious dude? Do you want to tell me that Republicans don't deserve to be called out for being idiots, unserious, posers, culture warriors instead of policy people? Holy crap. And as far as the working man goes, Joe Biden is the only president that A, beat Big Pharma so that people aren't paying $1,000 a month for freaking insulin, it's $35, and is bringing non-college jobs, meaning you don't have to go to a college, you don't have to go to 4-year college, but you can still now, in these chip factories, in these chip manufacturing plants, make $130,000, $135,000 because of the Chips and Science Act that no Republican wanted to vote for. But now Tommy Tuberville, a freaking Alabama, is taking credit for all the broadband that's being laid, saying this is the best investment in Alabama, but he was a no.
This has been your Green News Report.
Mary had a little man.
We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me. Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
Whenever I'm about to do something, I think, would an idiot do that? And if they would, I do not do that thing. Dwight Schrute. The entire efficacy of this incredibly useful piece of information hinges upon your ability to pick the right idiot. I wish there was a foolproof way to spot idiots, but counterintuitively, some idiots are very smart. They can dazzle you with words and misdirection. They can get promoted above you at work. They can even be elected president.
Oh, man. You know who that is, right? That's Governor J.D. Pritzker of Illinois. He was doing the commencement address at Northwestern University this weekend, and he gave them a primer on, idiots and idiocy and how to, have an idiot detector in your life and to never, ever mimic or vote for an idiot. This was one of the greatest speeches. I advise. He was awesome.
It was so good. It wasn't just funny. There were spots where it was so deep and so poignant and just really, really touched home for me. It was awesome.
Because it was true. It was true. And, true is always the basis of funny. True is always the basis of, tears and crying and all the things in life. Joy is based in truth. So he gave this. I'm going to play a couple minutes of it. All right. Just because I think if you have a child, if you have a kid who's like, I don't know, between 10 and 25, they ought to hear this speech. You ought to play this for every kid who's either moving into junior high school, moving into high school next year, moving into college, or leaving, graduating and moving into the workforce. This was the shining North Star of advice in a commencement speech that I've ever heard before.
The best way to spot an idiot: look for the person who is cruel. Let me explain. When we see someone who doesn't look like us, or sound like us, or act like us, or love like us, or live like us, the first thought that crosses almost everyone's brain is rooted in either fear or judgment, or both. That's evolution. We survived as a species by being suspicious of things that we aren't familiar with. In order to be kind, we have to shut down that animal instinct and force our brain to travel a different pathway. Empathy and compassion are evolved states of being. They require the mental capacity to step past our most primal urges. This may be a surprising assessment because somewhere along the way in the last few years, our society has come to believe that weaponized cruelty is part of some well-thought-out master plan. Cruelty is seen by some as an adroit cudgel to gain power. Empathy and kindness are considered weak. Many important people look at the vulnerable only as rungs on a ladder to the top. I'm here to tell you that when someone's path through this world is marked with acts of cruelty, they have failed the first test of an advanced society. They never forced their animal brain to evolve past its first instinct. They never forged new mental pathways to overcome their own instinctual fears. And so
their thinking and problem solving will lack the imagination and creativity that the kindest people have in spades. Over my many years in politics and business, I have found one thing to be universally true. The kindest person in the room is often the smartest.
Wow. What a great message for everybody in this country, but your children especially. That the lizard brain, the rage addicts are not going to be able to solve any problem that a giant country like ours, an advanced nation like ours, deserves to have on the case. Okay? I mean, we don't deserve to have liars and cheats and people who, think that culture wars and pointing it at people that, you've never known or don't understand fully or don't know, everything about that, they're to blame for your problems. Really? I mean, that's not going to solve jack. That's not going to do anything to help you. What does help is policy, well thought out policy like Bidenomics. Swear to God, this economy is doing really, really well, but people are so, keen on the meanness, keen on the culture wars because they're easy. Culture wars are easy to understand. They're easy to talk about. They're easy to take in. They're hard on the people that you focus that you make the focus of your hatred. They're very hard on those people. They cause those people to get suicidal. They cause those people to do drugs. They cause those people to drop out. They cause those people to think that they don't belong here. They cause those children to, feel less than or bullied or somehow outside of the American experiment. I mean, the fallout from a culture war is really disgusting. I mean, it's measurable. And it's ugly, and it's avoidable. But because people use their lizard brain instead of their big brain or their, ability to think their way out of difficult situations, then they're going to be the cause of so much sadness and so much unsolved problems in this country. There's no question about it. I was looking at, I don't even know what it was I was looking at, but it was something to do with the evolution of man, right? And it had like a certain kind of Neanderthal. It had a different, like it wasn't Homo sapiens sapien. It was something in between. And they said that particular version of us in that evolutionary stage of our evolution toward being what we are now, the only reason why that particular strain survived was because it was kind. Swear to God. That was part of our evolution, was that the kindest version of us would replace the less kind version of us. That's stunning to me. He must have seen it, J.D. Pritzker. He must have seen what I saw and decided to riff off of it and give this as the commencement speech to Northwestern University. And it landed really well. I mean, it had the effect that you would want somebody who is a genius in business and is somebody who is a political success as governor of Illinois to shine the light on, to show as a reason for his success in both worlds, right? Because he is a political success story and he's also a business success story. Even though you may not agree with every policy he ever, put down the pike, the guy is clearly successful in both endeavors. And he is saying to anyone who would listen, who are evolved human beings, who were able to major in biology, were able to major in, computer science, or able to major in veterinary science, or able to get a degree in political science, right? And now they're on their way to medical school, or they're on their way to law school. He was able to tell them that kindness is going to be the differential between you and all these very successful people that you're standing with today, that you're sitting with today. Because everybody that graduates Northwestern, is pretty damn smart. The thing that you really want to use to separate you as a problem solver from those who can't solve problems but are very smart, like Donald Trump he's not a schmuck, right? He's not an idiot in the sense of, being stupid. When you say idiot, you think of a stupid. No, he's not stupid. He's just unkind and cruel. And the message here is you could be the smartest person in this room, and there are a lot of smart people here. You know what's going to get you ahead of this whole crowd? Kindness. Just thought I'd share. Just thought I'd let you know. I'm telling you, go find that speech, that commencement address, J.D. Pritzker, and watch it. It's amazing.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
All right, this is Biden's new ad.
Too many people have been left behind and treated like they're invisible. Folks, my economic plan is about investing in places and people that have been forgotten. It's about making things here in America again. It's about good jobs. It's about the dignity of work. And it's about damn time we're doing it.
Joe Biden is determined to reward hard work. That's why he passed historic laws that rebuild our roads and bridges, invest in our factories, and bring back American manufacturing. Over 12 million jobs have been created. And Joe Biden's building an economy that leaves no city, no town, no American behind.
We're investing in places and people that have been forgotten. They've been invisible, but we haven't forgotten. We're building an economy from the bottom up and the middle out, where no one's going to be left behind.
Joe Biden, a president for all Americans.
I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
Okay, that's for our caller in Pennsylvania, number one. Number two, this is what I think should be Joe Biden's new ad.
What's the favorite thing you have in common, Donald, with your daughter?
Well, I was going to say sex, but I can't relate that.
By the way, your daughter,
She's beautiful.
Can I say this? A piece of ass.
Yeah.
She looks more voluptuous than ever.
She's actually always been very voluptuous. She's 6 feet tall. She's got the best body.
Yeah, she's hot.
I've said that if Ivanka weren't my daughter, perhaps I'd be dating her. You know.
Stop it. Oh, it's so weird. Who are you, Woody Allen?
Kindness, everybody, kindness, not pedophilia, not talking about how you want to bag your daughter, and then saying everybody else is a pedophile. It's just so sick and twisted, right?
It's just more projection as they come at Biden for that stuff with
Right.
zero evidence, and then you got audio, video. I didn't see it. I didn't hear it.
It's not even a smoking gun. It's smoking talk. Do you know what I'm saying? It's unbelievable. It is an amazing thing that you have him on tape over and over, admitting to crimes, admitting to pedophilia, admitting to, wanting to, and that you can do this to whoever because when you're a star, all this stuff, it's on to, and people will still say, no, Biden's doing that. No, Biden's very busy creating jobs. Biden is very busy. He is. He's very busy. He gave a good speech today, I thought. Talking about how the Republican policy now, okay, not personalities, but policy. The Republican policy of, undoing Medicaid and undoing Medicare and trying to repeal and replace the ACA, okay, the Obamacare, which they never had a replacement for and they never repealed. Isn't that special? They lied. Trying to, cut into food stamps where people are getting, $35 a week and you have a problem with it? They're making you have a problem with $35. Okay. And cutting into disability checks and so that they could give tax cuts to millionaires and billionaires so that they can tax money that makes money at a lesser rate than work that makes money. This is trickle down. Right? You have to let the billionaires have their beak, they have to get their beaks wet. They have to be able to pay no taxes. Otherwise, if you make them pay taxes, how does it trickle down to you? Anyway, Biden today said, listen, wake up. Trickle down doesn't work. It never worked. It never will work.
Folks, let me say it as clearly as I can. The trickle-down approach failed the middle class. It failed America. It blew up the deficit. It increased inequity. And it weakened our infrastructure. It stripped the dignity, pride, and hope out of communities, one after another, particularly through the Midwest, Western Pennsylvania, heading west. People working as hard as ever couldn't get ahead because it's harder to buy a home, pay for college education, start a business, retire with dignity. The first time in a generation, the path of the middle class seemed out of reach. And I don't think it's hyperbole. I think it's a fact, no matter whether you're a Democrat, Republican, or Independent. I knew we couldn't go back to the same failed policies when I ran. So I came into office determined to change the economic direction of this country, to move from trickle-down economics to what everyone on Wall Street Journal and Financial Times began to call Bidenomics. I didn't come up with the name. I really didn't. I now claim it, but they're the ones who used it first.
Yeah, the Wall Street Journal, that very, left-wing rag owned by Rupert Murdoch. The Wall Street Journal actually said Bidenomics is working, that this economy is really the envy of the world. We have the largest wage growth in the entire world right now. In the entire world. We did better after the pandemic than any other country in the entire world. Why? Because we had the Recovery Act. People were able to stay connected to their jobs and then go back to their jobs. Plus, we also created new jobs, millions of new jobs in this economy, and they're good paying jobs. And we're not even, we haven't even really gotten rolling yet. It took 2 years for everybody to even see or feel the results of the Chips and Science Act, okay? But you have people who are benefiting from it in places like Alabama, where their senators, plural, voted no against these things, but now want to claim credit for the infrastructure that's being built.
People strenuously opposed voting against it when we had this going on. This was going to bankrupt America.
Yep.
Well, there's a guy named Tuberville from Senator from Alabama who announced that he strongly opposed the legislation. Now he's hailing its passage. Here's what he said, quote, "It's great to see Alabama receive critical funds to boost ongoing broadband efforts."
It's funny. I mean, they were a definite no vote. They were out there on any channel that would put them on to trash Biden's, plans for Chips and Science to build microchip factories here, to build cars here, to electrify things here, to do the infrastructure bill, to build our roads and bridges back. I mean, we just saw, and all using American-made, American-produced materials. I just showed you in Philly where the I-95, the section of I-95 got blown away because this gas truck literally crashed and caught fire and blew away a good segment, a good chunk of I-95 south of Philadelphia, right? Well, they built it back in 12 days using recycled American materials, okay, using recycled glass. They built the walls for the support for the overpass. I mean, it's just incredible. Then you had the NASCAR people, okay, the people from the Speedway. They came in with their asphalt dryers, okay, so that they could, race on rainy days. They have these, it's like the Zamboni for, hockey rinks, right, to clear to scratch the ice, clean. So this is to dry the asphalt so you could race and not slide. And they came and they dried the section of road that was just rebuilt so that they could paint it. They could put the lines on it. And it opened 12 days. 12 days. But it's like all using American-made materials. Gee. So they had infrastructure week every week. Trump did. You're about to experience the infrastructure decade. Decade. It's going to employ you. It's going to benefit you. It's going to deliver mystical, magical benefits to you like broadband and paved roads and stable bridges. And your freaking unserious Republicans are going to, claim credit or beat each other up?
Clear for call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
All right, everybody, here's Joe Biden today.
How can you have the best economy in the world without the best infrastructure in the world? How do you get product from one place to another? I was out in Pittsburgh recently, the city of bridges. Bridges collapsing all over the nation. You've seen on television, railroad bridges collapsing. Bidenomics, we're turning this around. We're supporting targeted investments. We're strengthening America's economic security, our national security, our energy security, and our climate security. I designed and we signed a bipartisan infrastructure law. It's already announced, and I heard some of the speakers before touting some of it. It's already announced 35,000 projects across the country. Think of it this way. Nearly a century ago, Franklin Roosevelt's Rural Electrification Act.
Yep.
Rural electrification brought electricity to millions of Americans in rural America. 70 years ago, Dwight Eisenhower launched the Interstate Highway System, the largest infrastructure project to date in history. That's what the bipartisan infrastructure law does. It will be for our kids and grandkids, only bigger.
Yeah, but I don't like the way he speaks. His policies are banging, though. His policies are insanely good. Okay, so we got 35,000 infrastructure jobs going on, infrastructure projects, not jobs, projects, employing millions of Americans. Okay, 35,000 of these projects restoring to their greatness bridges, roads, tunnels, you name it, railroad, tracks and railroad bridges. And, people are just loving it. They're just loving it. And, that's just one of the things that he's invested in. To the point where the broadband's getting laid in Alabama. The broadband's everywhere. Everybody's enjoying the broadband. And, they don't know what to do about it. So they're like, isn't it great that you got broadband here in Alabama thanks to me, Tommy Tuberville? I mean, Tommy Tuberville is an idiot. You got Joe Biden literally protecting the United States national security. And he made a funny joke today. He was talking about visiting with President Xi. And he said, and don't worry, I turned in all my notes. Because Donald Trump doesn't turn in all his notes. Because Donald Trump serves Donald Trump. Donald Trump only cares about Donald Trump. And Donald Trump would sacrifice the United States of America's national security for his ego, not even for money. I don't even know why he did it. I have no earthly idea. Did he sell it to somebody? The Saudis certainly loved the Trump family, so much so that they gave Jared Kushner, who has zero experience in private equity, like zero. Never, ever ran a private equity fund or firm in his life. He inherited buildings, real estate, from his daddy, who also went to prison. Just so fascinating, these families, because behind every great fortune, as you know, there's a great crime. But anyway, Donald Trump pardoned Jared's daddy, Charles Kushner, and somehow Jared was able to get $2 billion of Saudi money invested in his first ever private equity fund. So that's just, wow. He must have been a very impressive child, Jared, that the Saudis trusted him so much with all this cash. No, I will tell you right now that they sold something of value to the Saudis. My best guess is a list of people who didn't want bin Salman to ascend to the throne. And that's why he was able to pinpoint people in the Saudi royal family, Salman was, who stood in his way of ascension to the throne, kidnapped them, kept them hostage in the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in Riyadh, killed one of them as a message, don't cross me. And I bet you anything it was Jared who supplied the names of those family members. I mean, it's just a bet. It's just a bet. But here's Donald Trump talking about our national security in a way that saves his ego. Okay, this is a tape that CNN was able to get yesterday. This, like I said, this is not even a smoking gun. This is a smoking talk. This is a smoking tape. This thing sets Donald Trump on fire in front of a jury, okay? Literally. He's talking about these documents that are classified, and he didn't declassify them when he was president. And he's telling this is a ghostwriter for Mark Meadows. These are the important people he's hanging out with, okay? 2 ghostwriters for Mark Meadows' book about being the chief of staff to the chief, okay? And 2 staffers, 2 kids. And Donald Trump is showing them documents that still remain classified that have to do with the national security of the United States of America in case of an attack by Iran on us for which we need retaliatory action. Okay? This is what he's talking about. And CNN got the actual tape. Now, imagine you're in the jury. I don't care how much you love him. You're in the jury and you hear this, okay?
These are bad, sick people.
That was your coup, you know, against you.
Well, it started right at the
like
beginning.
when Millie's talking about, oh, you were going to try to do a coup. No, they were trying to do that before you even were sworn in. That's right. Trying to overthrow your election.
Well, with Millie, let me see that. I'll show you an example. He said
let me see that
I wanted to attack Iran. Isn't it amazing? I have a big pile of papers. This thing just came up. Look. This was him.
This was him.
They presented me this. This is off the record, but
they presented me
this.
This
This was him.
This
was the Defense Department and him.
Oh.
Wow. We looked at some. This was him. This wasn't done by me. This was him. All sorts of stuff. It's pages long. Look. Wait a minute. Let's see here.
Yeah.
I just found. Isn't that amazing? This totally wins my case, you know. Except it is like highly confidential, secret. This is secret information. But look at this. You attack, and
Hillary would print that out all the time, you know.
she'd send it.
Email.
No, she'd send it to Anthony Weiner, the pervert.
Please print.
By the way, isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
I was just saying because we were talking about
Please
it.
print.
And you know, he said he wanted to attack Iran and what? These are the papers. This was done by the military, given to me. I think we can probably, right?
I don't know. We'll have to see. Yeah, we'll have to try to
declassify.
Figure out
yeah. See, as president, I could have declassified it. Now I can't, you know, but this is classified.
Now we have a problem.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
It's so cool. I mean, it's so, here and I have, and you probably almost didn't believe me, but now you believe me.
No, I believe
it's incredible, right?
No,
hey, bring some Cokes in, please.
That is a smoking gun. That is literally Donald Trump saying this came from the Department of Defense. This, look at this. See this? This is what the Department of Defense did. Okay, and why is he doing this? I don't know if you remember this, but when Bob Woodward wrote his book, and there was another book called Peril that came out, these books all said that the Defense Department was very scared that Donald Trump, as a losing president, in order to stay in power, would declare war on Iran, okay? And that story is what he's defending himself against. And in order to defend himself, he shows these kids and ghostwriters who have no security clearance national security documents.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Okay, you heard what you heard, right? You heard what you heard. This is Donald Trump lying to your face.
I had a whole desk full of lots of papers and mostly newspaper articles, copies of magazines, copies of different plans, copies of stories having to do with many, many subjects. And what was said was absolutely fine. In fact, you could hear the rustle of the paper, and nobody said I did anything wrong. I don't do things wrong. I do things right. I'm a legitimate person.
I'm a legitimate person. You're a legitimate liar. That's what you are. And a legitimate idiot. Because you let yourself be recorded by people who typically record their subjects because they are ghost writers, and there's almost always a tape recorder placed on the desk between ye so that they can memorialize what you're saying when they go to write the book. And he's literally on tape telling them, look, I didn't want to go to war with Iran. This is what the Defense Department drew up. Look at this, pages and pages of war plans, pages and pages. This is what Milley gave me. And the staffers are going, and the ghostwriters are going, yeah, they never met a war they didn't want to fight. And now he's telling us this is newspaper articles, this is magazines. He's even trying to say, oh, no, it was plans for a golf course. Really? Why don't you just spit on us and get it over with and let us know that that's exactly how you feel about the people who vote for you. They are worthy of your spit and nothing more. All you do is lie to everybody. That's all you do. You serve up lie after lie after. It's like an abusive relationship with the cult members, I have to say. I mean, I don't know why they keep coming back for more of his spittle. The man stood on a stage for more than a year and recited poetry to let you know what a snake he was. And you kept requesting it. Oh, let me in, tender woman, let me in. And then the snake bites her and she gets poisoned and dies. And he goes, well, you knew I was a snake before you let me in. He's telling you, he's showing you, he's explaining it to you. And you're like, yeah, that's for me. What the heck?
The only thing I can think of is that the permission to be a bigot and a racist feels better than the mistreatment of Donald Trump feels bad. You know what I mean?
I don't think they feel bad. I think they think he's intending others to feel bad, not them. But he is disrespecting them each and every time he tells them, you knew I was a snake before you voted for me. He's telling you, I disrespect you so hard that I'm going to show you over and over and over again how stupid you were and are and remain. You'd still vote for me. You got me on tape saying that here are national security secrets that could imperil the life of each and every American, okay? These are our attack plans. These are our battle plans. I mean, you know, the military, I don't know how in the world, except to find out that the military was, actually seeded with a crap load of white supremacists to feed Brett's, ideology there about what's going on. They were, because the people that, tried to attack their own government there on January 6th, they were ex-military, almost all of them to a man. I was really sick and sad, but, they liked being white supremacists. They liked being Proud Boys and 3%ers and Oath Keepers and threatening their own government, hoping that they would be, knighted or selected as the new militia and that they would get to kill their fellow Americans at the behest of Donald Trump. I mean, I don't know what went through their freaking minds, but they're so stupid that they went on like Alex Jones' show and said, yeah, we did recon. Genius that you are. So yeah, now they're in jail for for being insurrectionists, for conspiring to overthrow their own government. They're in jail for 10 years here, 20 years there, 30. And Donald Trump isn't going to escape this. Jack Smith is talking to Rudy Giuliani, and he's got a whole bunch of witnesses, John Eastman, all these people speaking to Jack in the January 6th investigation. I mean, honestly. And I know there are people in this audience that are like, he's so slippery. I just want him to get away with it. I just need to believe that it's like Catch Me If You Can. It's like the spy story where you're rooting for the person who's trying to undo America's national security. You're rooting for the other side. It's incredible. It's amazing. So you got him on tape saying, hey, look at this, all because his ego was damaged when it became known that he was being fingered as a guy who would risk our national security in order to keep himself in power, that he would, attack Iran. That's what Woodward was saying in the last book. And those tape recordings are of Donald Trump. They're of Donald Trump. Everybody's got this man on tape. Everybody. Gary in Fort Lauderdale.
Randy.
Yeah.
The last thing this guy has on his mind right now is building a new golf course or a building. I got news for you. He's worried about going to prison. And here's a question. What's the difference between him and the Rosenbergs? I don't mean that as a joke, but I mean, really, isn't giving away national secrets, and hurting our country, what the Rosenbergs were killed for?
Well, I think the Rosenbergs were innocent, okay? And the thing that they have in common with Donald Trump is Roy Cohn. You understand? Roy Cohn was the prosecutor of the Rosenbergs.
I had no idea.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that something?
Oh, yeah. Small world, ain't it?
I never heard of that.
Yeah.
And, you said something about Tuberville before.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard this, but there's an interview recently of him talking about the black student athletes on his football teams, and the guy's a full-blown racist.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, even though he's a senator of the state, he's still a full-blown racist. You know?
He is.
And then there's one more thing. What this country needs, and I'm serious, is for you to be the press secretary. I'm serious. There's no way President Biden would lose if you were the press secretary. So you need to get on that.
You know what's interesting is today was the first day, and this is like deep in the weeds, okay? This isn't something everybody needs to know, but it's something you could know. Today was the first day that Jean-Pierre, the press...
Sure, the new replacement.
Yeah, today was the first day the deputy was ever at the podium in her stead. So
you mean that you think that signals something?
I do.
Good.
Yeah.
I would love to see you have that job. I mean,
no, not that I'm going to get that job.
No,
just that
but I wish you
she's
did.
not going to retain that job. She's no Jen Psaki. Let's put it that way.
No, Jen Psaki was pretty special.
She was awesome, right?
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Gary.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye. Alice in New York. I'm asking Alice. Go ask Alice. When she's 10 feet tall. Scott in Arkansas.
Yeah, Randy.
Hey.
How are you today? Okay.
I'm good.
All right. Anyways, I called about Steve Bannon, and I've watched him since Cambridge Analytica, and I've not cared for him a bit, and his appeal has gone on over than a year right now.
Yeah.
To face going to jail for a couple of years, and I'm wondering why they couldn't possibly speed that up, for God's sakes, because he's got the same evil voice as Donald. So that's why I'm calling. Wondering if you know anything about it.
It ain't over till it's over, Scott, right?
Yeah. Well, I just wait, but I'd like to see him go away if that was at all possible.
I hear you.
So,
you know what really, what irks me, what really, really disturbs me is that this is a guy who defrauded his own listeners, okay? Got pardoned by Donald Trump, pardoned for stealing from his own viewers, his own listeners, and he's still on there making money. It blows my mind.
I know it, and I've never been to his site. I see him sometimes on the network.
Yeah, me too.
Broadcasting.
Yeah, I hear you. But it's so amazing how they just get to go about their business. They just never end up in jail. And I understand that people are rooting for them in that weird mob movie way. But here's the message. This is real. This is real life. This isn't a movie. Okay?
Oh, I know it.
Right?
I know it. I'm so sick of watching him and the Miller character and some of the other characters.
I know.
Have never been tagged.
I hear you. I mean,
that's all I'm calling about here.
Thank you. All right, thanks for the call. Appreciate you very much. All right, so I apologize for being out yesterday, but not really, because it's my yearly physical. I do this every year for those of you who pay close attention to everything I do. I feel sorry for you. But I only did the female half. I only did the female parts. Now I have to do the other parts, right? So I squoze them in. So next Tuesday, which is part of the legit 4th of July weekend, I have a doctor. She's Ukrainian, so she doesn't celebrate, I guess. I don't know. Her office is open, so we'll be off Tuesday. Just fair warning, just telling you. But we made a mistake yesterday, and we will not be making that mistake, so you will get a best of show on Tuesday, all right? See you tomorrow.